You probably think the most powerful people in tech are the software gurus and social media moguls, the faces behind the apps and platforms you use every day. But what if I told you the real king of Silicon Valley is someone you might not even recognize? A man who, while everyone else chased clicks and fleeting trends, was quietly building the very engine they would all end up needing. This man, Jensen Huang, wasn't focused on the next viral app. He was building the factory that would produce the future itself. Welcome to eLux, your guide to the billionaire lifestyle and elite luxury. Today we break down how Jensen Huang's long-term vision and strategic patience turned NVIDIA into the backbone of the AI revolution and made him the most powerful man in tech. This is the story of an immigrant who worked as a dishwasher at Denny's as a teen, only to co-found his own company years later in a booth at another Denny's. It's the story of a leader who has run that company, NVIDIA, for over 30 years with the core belief that it's always just 30 days from going out of business. It's the almost unbelievable tale of how a company that stared into the abyss of bankruptcy multiple times made a multi-billion-dollar bet on a technology for a market that didn't even exist. This is the story of how strategic patience, a profound tolerance for suffering, and a relentless focus on hardware created the undisputed new king of tech. The wilderness and the near apocalypse. The NVIDIA story doesn't begin in a polished Silicon Valley boardroom. It begins in 1993 in a Denny's booth in San Jose, California, over endless cups of cheap coffee. There, three engineers, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem, sketched out a new kind of computing. They saw a future where computers would need specialized, dedicated chips to handle the insane demands of real-time 3D graphics. The small but growing gaming market, they figured, would be their Trojan horse, the perfect entry point to build the accelerated computing platform they truly envisioned. But the early days were absolutely brutal. The 90s tech scene was a graveyard for graphics startups, littered with the corpses of companies that had the same idea but failed in execution. NVIDIA was almost one of them. Their first chip, the NV1, was a commercial disaster. It was built on an unconventional architecture that was fundamentally incompatible with the direction the entire industry, led by Microsoft's new DirectX standard, was heading. The company was hemorrhaging cash. By 1996, things got so dire that Huang had to lay off more than half of NVIDIA's employees. With everything riding on their next chip, the Riva 128, they were terrifyingly close to bankruptcy, with only a month of payroll left in the bank. That near-death experience became the crucible that forged Jensen Huang's leadership style. It's where his unofficial company motto was born: "Our company is 30 days from going out of business." For years, he would begin meetings with those exact words, wiring a sense of profound humility and constant paranoid urgency into the company's DNA. Luckily, that do-or-die bet, the Riva 128, was a massive success. It worked flawlessly, developers loved it, and it sold 1 million units in its first 4 months, pulling the company back from the brink. This comeback was followed by the successful Riva TNT. Then, in 1999, NVIDIA made a move that was as much marketing genius as it was engineering prowess. They launched the game-changing GeForce 256 and crowned it the world's first graphics processing unit, or GPU. By coining the term GPU, they weren't just selling a product, they were defining an entirely new category of computing that they intended to own. For most companies, that would have been mission accomplished. They had survived near death and conquered the gaming market. But for Jensen, this was just the beginning. Gaming was simply the proving ground, the only market large enough to fund the perfection of the processing engines he believed would one day change the world. The Gambit, a bet on a $0 billion market. By the mid-2000s, NVIDIA was the undisputed leader in graphics. Their GPUs were packed with thousands of tiny, efficient cores, perfect for running thousands of simple calculations all at once, like rendering the millions of pixels on a screen. But this immense power was locked inside a cage. Only a small priesthood of highly specialized graphics programmers could tap into that raw horsepower. This led to the single most important decision in NVIDIA's history. In 2006, Huang's team released CUDA, the Compute Unified Device Architecture. Simply put, CUDA was a software key that unlocked the parallel processing power of their gaming GPUs for everyone. It allowed scientists, researchers, and developers to use NVIDIA's GPUs for general-purpose computing, turning what was seen as niche gaming hardware into miniature programmable supercomputers. Wall Street was baffled. Investors saw it as a pointless, fantastically expensive distraction from the profitable gaming business. Why pour billions of dollars into a software platform for a customer base that didn't exist? The market for what Huang was patiently building was, as he later admitted, $0 billion. While other tech giants soared on the mobile and social media boom, NVIDIA was pouring its resources into what looked like a science project. For nearly a decade, it looked like a terrible, costly bet. NVIDIA's stock flatlined as the company entered a long winter. During this time, they painstakingly improved CUDA, built out libraries, and cultivated a community of developers, all while waiting for the world to catch up to their vision. Huang wasn't chasing the hype. He was quietly and methodically building the picks and shovels for a gold rush no one else even saw coming. The coronation, the world catches up. The first tremor of the earthquake arrived in 2012. An AI model called AlexNet from the University of Toronto didn't just win the world's premier image recognition contest, it annihilated the competition. It achieved an error rate so dramatically better than the runner-up that it sent a shockwave through the entire field. The secret weapon behind this historic leap? It was trained on two NVIDIA GTX 580 gaming GPUs. That massively parallel architecture, perfected for rendering video game worlds, turned out to be miraculously perfect for training the enormous neural networks of deep learning. Suddenly, Huang's $0 billion market had its killer app. The AI research community pivoted almost overnight. Researchers flocked to CUDA, and NVIDIA's decade of thankless work building out a software ecosystem created a deep, defensible moat no competitor could touch. A rival could design a chip, but they couldn't replicate the 10 years of software, libraries, and developer trust that NVIDIA had patiently built. Then in November 2022, the inferno arrived, ChatGPT. The public launch of OpenAI's chatbot triggered a global AI arms race. Every major tech company, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and thousands of startups scrambled to build their own large language models. To do this, they needed one resource above all else: massive, almost unimaginable amounts of computing power. They needed NVIDIA GPUs, not a few dozen, but tens of thousands at a time. The decade-long bet on CUDA paid off more spectacularly than anyone dreamed. Demand exploded. NVIDIA's data center revenue, where its AI business lives, skyrocketed. For the first quarter of fiscal year 2026, data center sales hit a staggering $39.1 billion, a 73% jump from the year before. The company's market cap soared past 1, then 2, then 3, and eventually surpassed $4 trillion, at times making it the most valuable company in the world. The man who got his start at Denny's was now worth hundreds of times more than the entire restaurant chain where his company was born. The king's new empire. Today, NVIDIA's dominance is hard to overstate. It holds an estimated 80 to 90% of the AI chip market. But the company isn't just selling chips, it's selling entire AI factories. Complete, vertically integrated systems of hardware, networking, and software like the powerful Blackwell and upcoming Rubin platforms. These are full-stack infrastructure for building intelligence. Jensen Huang's leadership style is just as unconventional as his strategy. He famously operates with an incredibly flat structure of around 60 direct reports, a number that would make most management theorists break out in a cold sweat. He avoids one-on-one meetings, preferring to share information with his entire senior staff at once. The logic is simple. It eliminates information silos, prevents politics, and flattens the hierarchy, allowing the company to move with incredible speed. It's a style built on radical transparency and a relentless focus on solving problems. He remains obsessively hands-on, a trait he says he learned as a dishwasher, where he learned that no task was beneath him. He even reviews about 100 emails from employees at all levels each day to get an unfiltered view of the company. He is driven not by a hunger for success, but by a deep-seated fear of failure forged in those early days on the brink of collapse. He has admitted his work is all-consuming, stating, "I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I'm thinking about working. He famously wishes students ample doses of pain and suffering because he believes adversity and resilience are the most important ingredients for character. Greatness, he has said, comes from character, and character isn't formed out of smart people. It's formed out of people who suffered. While the rest of Silicon Valley chased software trends and social media metrics, Jensen Huang was playing a completely different, much longer game. He understood a fundamental truth that others missed. True, lasting power doesn't come from building the hottest app, but from building the essential, indispensable infrastructure that all other innovations depend on. He didn't chase the gold rush. He sold the picks, the shovels, the Levi's jeans, and eventually the entire mining operation. The story of NVIDIA is a masterclass in strategic patience in a world that demands instant gratification. It's the story of a leader who trusted his gut through a decade of doubt, who endured the agonizing pain of near failure and learned from it, and who ultimately built the engine that is now powering the next industrial revolution. He didn't just build a company, he built the throne of the new tech world and quietly, patiently, became its most powerful king. NVIDIA's story is a powerful lesson in a world obsessed with overnight success. But with every major competitor, including AMD, Intel, and even their own customers like Google and Amazon, now racing to build their own AI chips, the great question is, can the king hold on to his throne? What do you think is next for NVIDIA and the future of AI? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. This is eLux, your guide to the billionaire lifestyle and elite luxury. We'll see you in the next video.